So hello everyone, welcome back to part 4 of 8 Chainlink Educate series. Just as a reminder, this event is recorded and posted to our YouTube within the next day. So if you miss anything or if my audio is acting up, feel free to go online and rewatch that whenever it gets posted. And also, just as another reminder, this Educate series is followed by a hackathon starting here at the end of the month. And I have posted some links down there in the chat already to our Discord and Twitter, as well as the summary to our previous event, as well as the next event coming up next week on the 13th of July, which is the Chainlink and Gaming panel. And so this week we are very happy to be welcomed by our very own Anthony. So Anthony, whenever you're ready, feel free to take over.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. I'm Anthony. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Encode Club and here to talk you through a broader topic of non-Ethereum chains with Chainlink, which I'm going to use to kind of talk about the space in general, most importantly, and also then go into some sort of deep dive about various chains and how you can get involved with them and how you can use Chainlink with them. So I'm going to use one of my favorite formats for this sort of thing, which is a whiteboard, a Miro board, which just allows me to kind of set the stage with stuff quite nicely. So this is non-Ethereum chains with Chainlink. So what I'm going to start off by talking about, which you should have already covered, but just to kind of refresh you, is what is Chainlink? Hopefully everyone in chat has a good guess, but I'm going to kind of tell you for free. This won't be too interactive. Well, Chainlink is what we call an oracle. And an oracle basically comes across kind of one, or we have them for one kind of main reason. And that reason is, how do we get data into smart contracts? So a smart contract, you're probably aware, is a piece of self-executing code subject to a few conditions being met. So one example of a smart contract could simply be, when Danny goes to a run, send me a notification. Danny likes running. That's a contract, a smart contract. It's a simple thing like that. We could do more complicated ones. When Danny sends me $10, send him back $11. Be fairly stupid, but I could do something like that. It's basically if-then statements. If this happens, then that happens. But we want to do it with lots of different entities and addresses. Anyway, problem is, let's take that first example I talked about, which was if Danny goes for a run, send me $10. So fairly stupid one here, or no, it will send me a notification. Fairly silly smart contract here. Scroll in a little bit, make sure that's written correctly. So the question is, how does a smart contract, I cannot type so, a smart contract, i.e. a piece of code, know that Danny has gone for a run? More importantly, this is effectively an external piece of data. It's real world data. And this is where Chainlink comes in. Chainlink is itself a protocol. Specifically, a protocol designed to feed data into from the real world into smart contracts. Now you might be saying, well, surely, actually let's put it down. Don't want to do that. Get rid of you, little box. You might be saying, well, why can't we just rely on the internet? The problem with the internet is that if you had a smart contract which looked at Wikipedia and said, okay, let's say a sports result. If this sports result happens, do that. Well, perhaps if I compromise the source of the data, the source of the website in some way, I could then compromise the smart contract. It therefore has a centralized point of failure. We're trying to avoid that. So what is Chainlink actually doing? Where is it getting its data from? Well, what we have is effectively a decentralized reputation system where different people, where different actors stake their reputation as providers of data. We then, as a network, decide who are good sources of data and constantly reevaluate. The result is a decentralized source of truth. We are still taking data from one person, but that source is being constantly reevaluated. We had a technical event last week. I won't go into it. I encourage you to watch it. But the end result is a network that in a decentralized way assesses people's reputation constantly, just like we assess miners' reputation in order to, as data providers. So our end result is Chainlink is a data provider, it's an oracle, it's a source of information. But I think it's important to contrast what is the difference to the, that's so annoying, I realize the background noise. Forgive me, I will kill Discord. It might be you, Danny, actually. Although you're muted, so maybe it is me. Sorry, I'm falsely accusing you. So what is the difference between Chainlink and the graph? If those of you who've heard of the graph. Well, the difference is this. Both are protocols designed to deliver data into smart contracts. Chainlink focuses on real-world data. Graph focuses on data from blockchains itself. That's the key difference. So Graph will listen to a blockchain and get data, whereas and it's more of a strict API. Chainlink is looking for real-world data to bring in. So kind of key difference. I've also got a very odd squiggly little thing here, which I'm going to delete. So that's a little introduction to Chainlink for those of you who didn't know. Now, Chainlink, in a kind of mostly is synonymous with Ethereum. It is synonymous in two respects. One, Link, which the token of Chainlink is an ERC20, so a fungible token on Ethereum. And two, the first chain Chainlink was on was Ethereum. But very importantly, Chainlink is on many other chains. Specifically, the chains it's on, though not exclusively, are EVM chains. Now, some of you might know what EVM chains are. EVM stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine. It means things that look like Ethereum in terms of the way you interact or do dApp development, but don't have Ethereum's consensus. This is pretty much what an EVM is. And basically you get chains that, more importantly, I think we should add, these chains for which you build stuff in Solidity, and also for which you can have any Ethereum dApp or tooling can work on them. So two important things to add. So it becomes fairly obvious in this context that Chainlink works on all EVM chains pretty much. I'll say almost all EVM chains. It's important to add EVM chains are not themselves linked to Ethereum. They just look like it, have the same way of interacting with the chain, building dApps, coding stuff as you would with Ethereum. So part of this question then is also looking at EVM chains and what EVM chains are. So we'll kind of unpack that a little bit throughout this talk about what is an EVM chain. So let's move on to that a little bit now. So what are the EVM chains? And how do they differ from Ethereum? So I think very important to know. So luckily, apart from this arrow not working, Chainlink does actually provide us with much of the answers in their documentation. So I'm just going to dig it out now. So we've got basically a list here. Whenever there is a feed, there is a you can use a kind of Chainlink for. We call Chainlink data coming from Chainlink data feeds. So the first one we're going to talk about is BNB chain. Now this is kind of my perception of it. I think a fairly educated perception, but I might not be perfect. Certainly, I'll try and give you a fairly accurate case of the truth. So BNB chain is exactly like Ethereum. See if I can zoom in a bit. So BNB chain is exactly like Ethereum, except it is faster because it has fewer nodes. So you need an agreement of less people to get consensus. It's run by Binance, or it was founded by the centralized exchange, we'll call it SEX, Binance. So that is BNB chain. So again, no reasons why you couldn't do something like Chainlink on it. And one of the more famous examples is PancakeSwap, which uses Chainlink, which is a fork of Uniswap. So that is BNB chain. Feel free to stop me anytime with questions. Would I be able to share the Miro board? Yeah, why not? Oh, someone's got some background noise. Non-ETH chains and Chainlink. Put an emoji in there. I think you should put an emoji. Putting the lightning emoji. Look at that. Beautiful. I should now be able to. So I'll stick this in chat and people can view as I'm doing it. Cool. Good. So that is BNB chain. So let's go on to the next one. Polygon. Beautiful. So we do a lot of Polygon work. Danny, if you could find I'll put some of our Polygon education series, and that would be good. We're actually just finished a Polygon hackathon as well. So Polygon is, I think it would be incorrect. They call themselves a layer 2. I think it's fairly incorrect. It's more of a side chain, which basically means it takes a bucket of transactions, processes them away from the main chain, and sends them back. Therefore, it's and it again exactly like Ethereum in every other respect. It's very fast and very cheap. You'll often see a lot of NFTs on Polygon. That's Polygon. So we've already covered 2 chains. Congratulations to us. You've also got Gnosis chain, which is by the Gnosis team, obviously. And this used to be called XDAI. They merged, and it is another layer 2. We'll talk about layer 2s maybe a bit later. There's a lot of non-Ethereum chains. Hecko, I don't really know so well, so I'm not going to talk about. Avalanche. Again, Danny, if you could perhaps find some of our Avalanche lectures and just drop them in here. So Avalanche, big fan. We're a big fan of Avalanche. I hope they're a big fan of us. So Avalanche are also an EVM, specifically the Avalanche C chain is where you do EVM development. Chainlink as a sponsor in our Avalanche Hackathon, for instance. And more than that, so Avalanche has a different method of consensus. Consensus is how you come to agreement that new things have happened on chain. That should be small c consensus. So Avalanche has a different method of consensus, and specifically it's something called snowman consensus. And again, what consensus, right, or why you would pick a different consensus is you're trying to come to agreement faster about why something happened, in order that you can process that transaction faster and then propagate that to the network. So Avalanche, C-chain, consensus. There are other aspects to Avalanche. They have subnets, which allow you to produce mini blockchains. They have the exchange chain. They have many other ways, but particularly if you want to do EVM development, you can go to Avalanche. And I should add, if you're ever looking to go from Ethereum to other EVM development, it's like one line of code to change. So then your dApp could be deployed on these other cool chains as well. Cool. Phantom, we are not going to cover so much just today, just because we don't have necessarily a body of research about them. So I'm going to just all body of previous events about them. So I'm just going to flag that Phantom are one of the projects you could also use. What has happened to my arrow? And Danny has just dropped something there. Then we kind of get on to the more of the layer twos, really. And layer twos, well, there's various ways to do it. ZK rollups, optimistic rollups. But basically what we're trying to do is, again, process a set of transactions off-chain in order to make the main chain run faster. And then what we're trying to do is then send a proof to the main chain that something has happened without having to process every single transaction, and also trying to prove it's happened without necessarily proving the nature of those transactions. Let's do it faster. So you've got a few major layer twos here, very popular: Arbitrum and Optimism. Arbitrum and Optimism, put them in there. Again, both of which you can use Chainlink on. Just ask that chap to mute themselves, maybe you can mute them, Danny. Cool. And then you've got a few others I should probably add into here. Metis, well, another one you could use. And one that's particularly kind of useful, given we've got an event coming up, is Harmony. So we've got Harmony events, Educate and Hackathon happening. Again, you can use Harmony, and that's another EVM blockchain, which will, if you want to learn more about them, you know, show our future events, you go and see our event with them, or events coming up in the next few weeks. Moonbeam allows you to do kind of use Polkadot consensus, but an EVM on top. So if you like Polkadot consensus, that's called Grandpa, if memory correct. So that's correctly. Danny's going to put a link to our Polkadot events. You could also go to that. So you're immediately seeing there is a huge range of different protocols. And the key thing is, if there's an EVM, Chainlink's probably on it. There's some I've missed here, the Moon Rivers, the Hecko. There's all of these you could kind of use. So very, very important. The other factor is Solana. And Solana represents, I think, the first non-EVM chain that they support. So we're going to put it in here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Solana in general, first and foremost, and then we can go down into the specifics of it, really. So first of all, so Solana is a Rust-based chain. Now, all the others are Solidity-based. Solidity has some resemblance to JavaScript, but Solana uses Rust. Solana I would often describe as kind of like driving a sports car. It's much harder because you have much more control. Specifically, Solana encourages you to be very specific about the way you handle errors and bugs. pugs and security. They always make it easier, something called Anchor. We've got a lovely Solana series, which Danny again is going to drop into chat. Rust, so Solana allows you to do a lot of very cool things. It has something called proof of history, which is basically a way of ordering stuff on chain, which is hard for anyone that kind of has watched block times before. And it should be noted about Solana, there's a lot of controversy. And mainly that controversy centers around nodes. And oftentimes the network gets flooded and the nodes can't keep up. So the chain breaks down. And this is kind of a big problem with Solana that you'll often hear memes about. Oh, is it a Monday? Is Solana down again? So a bit of a tricky one for them, but it is still extremely fast, extremely efficient, extremely cheap to run stuff on, and extremely popular. There is going to be also an EVM on Solana, or there is an EVM on Solana. I can't believe that's gone down there. And this is called Neon Labs, which I would bet a small price that will be integrating with Chainlink very soon. But as with all these things, they all need, and look how beautiful that is, they all need an oracle. And I think the integration of Chainlink into Solana is probably the most impressive so far. And again, if you want to have a look at the docs directly, I'll drop them into chat. But it's not so hard, not so kind of easy. But you'll see the kind of standard data feeds are kind of there. And again, they are data feeds. And if you actually want to start some Solana development, we have ongoing kind of boot camps. I think the next one will be scheduled for September. And you can kind of learn Solana from scratch and get going. All of this to say that you have a lot of choice when you choose to kind of work with Chainlink. And it is, I think, it should be flagged, and maybe we can go off. Oh my God, that's gone huge. Maybe we can go off in a separate direction. We'll come over here. So oracles are essential, and therefore Chainlink is essential. Knowledge and ability to use Chainlink is essential as a blockchain developer. There are other oracles available, but totally if you're working on Ethereum, kind of Chainlink is fairly obligatory. There's another kind of factor around this. Look at my little squiggly dot. There's another factor, which is that most DeFi protocols use Chainlink. And if you want a data feed of, let's say, your price for those DeFi protocols to use, you need to have a certain level of volume and credibility. And so what is this to say is Chainlink is effectively a kind of stamp on tokens. It is a certificate, really. To have a Chainlink feed of your price data is itself a sign of credibility. I think that's very important to know, really. And that's also why Chainlink is with so many chains, because the name of Chainlink means so much. And as a result of that, it kind of carries over between chains itself, which I think is again, very important to know. In terms of actually using Chainlink, I believe this has been touched on in other lectures, but I want to kind of just highlight to you. It's very simple. There's a nice kind of overview of the data feeds and the different bits of the contracts. But eventually, you're just really going to follow this one using the data feeds. And there's some fairly basic solidity. Does StepN use an oracle? So I'm actually very familiar with StepN. I'm actually one of their seed investors. God, that sounded like a douchey comment. Wow. Sounds terrible. I never thought I'd be that person. So I yeah, know the project well. I know the founders very well. But I don't know the answer to that question. I suspect they use I can't remember what it's called. I'm going to find out on my other screen. They use the other Oracle on Solana, which is, someone might want to help me out. What is it called? I'll find out for you. Pith network. I think it uses Pith network. Yeah. Though the only bit with that you need StepN on chain is really the NFTs. The game is off chain, or the game is not on, is a chain. It's not itself on a chain. A chain is the wrong way, but it is not on a chain. So I suspect saying the NFTs, of which you wouldn't need to really use it. There might be feeds of it. I suspect it uses Pith network. For those of you who don't know what was talked about there, StepN is a kind of walk to earn app that's done extremely well, done extremely high valuation. Yeah, still worth over 5 billion fully diluted, number 82 on the coins. And it won a Solana hackathon last year, and went on to great success. And you can earn tokens just by walking. And you buy shoes to increase the rate at which you earn tokens as well. Got any? Do you know what the worst thing is? I haven't even used my own invite code yet, so unfortunately I don't at the moment. But maybe if you DM me, I can try and help. This is the basic way you write the contract. I'm not going to go through it myself, but you can go here and start using Chainlink and integrate. You might be also thinking, what data feeds are available? Let's have a play around. There's quite a lot. Here we go. And you can see you've got different feeds on different chains. So in simple ones are just price feed, data of price. So I just want, it's important for the way I built my protocol that I know what the price of USD is at all time. Or ETH USD. So this is obviously the most popular feed. What's the price of Ethereum? Getting that into my smart contract. But you've also got other ones like different things like AVAX, BTC, what the price of Link is itself. You can see Phantom was a fairly early one as well. But there's other categories. So most of them are price data. I want to see if I can find a non-price data one. Market cap. No, where is? What's it? You can see everyone uses Chainlink. Everyone. What is? See if we can find sports data. So it's only this, but I know there's others. So at the moment, it just looks like price, but they used to have some others. Oh, you can request a data feed. Bit boring, isn't it? See what's on other chains. I'm going to try and find in a second some other examples. Anyway, so you might be saying, why is Chainlink not on other chains? So Polkadot. Well, Polkadot is different because it's consensus, but let's take Near or what about Tezos or Algorand? And look, the main reason is it's hard to build this, and then they're working on different chains. Again, the EVM ones are easy because the infrastructure. Solana was an important one to add, and they will, I'm sure, add others over time. But it's just hard to build. It's just, you have to effectively build specific instances of the protocol on every one of these chains. Again, that's hard. Again, easy EVM, but you have to have effectively mini chain links on all of them. So that is the reason there aren't there, and there will be oracles on all of these chains. But hopefully this gives you a bit of a kind of overview of well, less about Chainlink, more about these other chains. If you're a developer looking to use each one, the good thing is that for free you get so many of them, and it really is simple to deploy a dApp, especially when you know infrastructure like Chainlink and the Graph and things like stable coins are there across other chains, that it becomes simple to be like, look, I'm building on Ethereum, but God, I want cheaper gas fees, I'll try Polygon. Or, okay, I actually prefer Avalanche consensus, it's faster, I'll go to Avalanche. Or now I'm using layer 2. It's important to note Chainlink will still be there every step of the way. And when you decide in our hackathon to build something, you can build on any single one of these chains. The particular one I'd love to see is Solana for obvious reasons, but any one of these are absolutely fine if you do want to build something. And we would be delighted to see the more exotic ones be kind of used as well. Cool. That is mostly my talk, about half an hour or so. I will take any questions that anyone has. Okay, cool. So what does Encode do? So Encode, we call it a Web3 education community. Now that is the bio line, but I don't think it's what it necessarily describes perfectly what we do. We train developers fundamentally through events like this, through hackathons, through accelerators, and through boot camps. And we do this across many different protocols. I think we've worked with pretty much everyone at this point. We have ongoing programs with most chains, really. If they're not already on the calendar, they will be very, very soon. Purpose of Encode really is to help you go to the next step in your Web3 journey. And the end goal, we hope you start companies. We've had over 60 companies formed out of Encode and get lots of jobs. And we have a brilliant head of talent, Laura, help in that respect. So we want you to go through our programs, learn about new protocols, and then go on. And we've got tons of stuff happening at the moment. So please do sign up if this is of interest. We're delighted to see you, and feel free to message myself or Danny. Danny will drop his Telegram and Discord in, and you can have a chat with him, especially as we get up towards the hackathon. Is there a difference between side chains and layer 2s? For instance, some people refer to Polygon as a layer 2, some refer to a side chain. I think it's more reasonable to call it a side chain. A layer 2 is far more kind of in depth. Now, there's a lot of kind of discussion over whether Polygon is itself actually a layer 2, but I think it's more fair to say it is a side chain, and layer 2 really tries to do things at a much bigger, much faster scale, really, and will typically use some sort of zero knowledge or optimistic roll-up technology. So hopefully that kind of answers it. If you're looking into the proper layer 2s, not proper, but want different layer 2s, I'd be looking at Optimism, Arbitrum. Starknet is also a personal favorite of mine. And the hackathon registration is up there, and I do highly encourage you guys please to sign up to the hackathon. Otherwise, in the meantime, it's been a pleasure. I have been Anthony, and we've had Danny with us as well. I look forward to seeing you all soon and in later weeks. I think next week is a gaming panel, so that'll be very fun indeed. All right, you all, thank you very much, and see you soon.